Okay, so we are calling to order the Boise Park and Recreation Commission regular monthly meeting for Thursday, October 21st, 2021. First, we will do attendance.
Don't see her on the line, but Baber, Carter, Johnson, here. McIlroy,
Here.
Raber, Ruziska,
Here.
Stidham, and Urban. Here. And then it looks like we have Council Member Bajent joining us as well.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion, right?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure we go right to motion. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I would move to approve the consent agenda. This is John.
Okay, we had a second from Commissioner Stidham, so I think we should vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on to new business. First, we have the minutes from September 16th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes. This is John. Second.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next, we have a pool facility update and I believe that's by the director.
Thank you, Madam President. Commission members, just a real high-level quick overview for you to give you a little bit of an update of what our plans are with our South and Low pool engagement process. As commission members are aware, both South and Low have been closed the last two summers. The first summer it was closed in 20 we closed all of our pools due to the COVID-19. In November of 20 through about February of 21, we did contract with a engineering consulting firm to do an analysis of both pools. And just to look at code and ADA requirements, something we've been looking at doing the last few years, but took the opportunity with the pools being closed to hire a consultant to take a deeper dive on both of those pools, pardon the pun, on looking at any deficiencies that we have at both locations. That report was presented to the mayor and city council in February. It was fairly extensive, the deficiencies, and primarily they were in both code and code deficiencies in electrical, in plumbing, and then had some fairly significant ADA deficiencies as well. And if you're familiar with these two pools, they're both above ground pools. They do not have access, ADA access from the main floor to the actual pool deck itself. That's obviously one of the major issues where we're trying to create accessibility opportunities in all of our facilities for all of our citizens, equal access and opportunity. But due to this significant number of deficiencies, we've made the decision that they would not open last summer as well. So those were the only two pools that we didn't have open this past summer. And so what our plan is now is to start to engage our public that has a very high interest in both of these pool locations. They are our oldest pools. They are called a BITS design, which was back in the 40s and 50s. A number of these pools were built all across the country, this above ground concept. And Boise was a location where two of these pools were built. There are only a small handful, I believe, like 4 to 6 pools that are still in production in the entire United States. When I say production, have not been removed from use either. I believe there's one that's been repurposed into a pool, into an updated pool, and the others have been shuttered. And so we would like to go through an engagement process with the public, since both of these pools have a significant historical and preservationist consideration in our community. We wanted to engage the public in a process that we could get a feel on what direction we should go and what options we should be presenting to the council. The report that came in from our engineering firm back last February did have about a $2.4 million price tag on each pool to bring it up to just to code requirements. And that did not include some significant ADA adjustments that would need to be made as well, nor did it include a structural integrity analysis of each pool. It just looked at really the code requirements that we were in violation of. And so that's also what created some pause with our mayor and council at 2.4 million before putting that money into the pools. Let's get it out to the public. Let's have the public weigh in on what they would like to see occur with the two pools. And so I'm just here to give you an update on where that is at, which is beginning next month. We're in the process right now of bringing a consultant facilitator on under contract with the city that will lead the effort for us. That will start in November with some stakeholder meetings, and then it will wrap up with a report to the mayor and city council on options for each of those pool locations, whether it be the pools get rebuilt, whether they, we will just present a number of options to the public and then gauge what the public's interested in with price tags attached to each of those. We'll bring those options back to the city council in a report it looks like that would probably be from a timeline perspective, April or May, and then council can decide what they want to do with each of the pool locations. And so there could be any number of combinations of options that we feel like we'll get from the public, just gauging the responses we've received already from our discussions with a number of the public that has a very high vested interest in both locations. And I know our commission president lives very close to South Pool and is very familiar with that location. And we've talked to numerous people that grew up and learned to swim, and now their children have learned to swim. And in some cases, we have grandchildren that have learned to swim at both of those pool locations. So that gives you a generational flavor of what an interest in these locations are. And we're very sensitive to that, and the mayor and council are as well. So we want to go through that public engagement process, which will be about a 3-month process in the beginning of 2022. And then hopefully come up with, the goal will be come up with those options that we would present to council with the price tags attached to each. And then it's up to the council and the mayor to decide what options they would like to move forward with. So that just gives you a quick overview of where we're at with those two pools. So when you hear my guess is there will be a lot of public interest in this process. So as commission members, if you get any questions regarding the process or regarding wanting to provide you input, please just relay that on to us if that does happen. My goal will be to give you updates each month on what's happening with that, with the rollout and the engagement, and keep you abreast of what's going on. But certainly, as you hear from the public, please relay that on to us, as we want to capture as much information from the public on these two pools as we possibly can. So, Madam President, with that, I would certainly rest for any questions from any commission members, but otherwise, that's the extent of our report on the South and Low Pool update.
Thank you, Director Holloway. Any questions for Director Holloway on the pools? Okay, our next item under new business is a Foothills and Open Space Division presentation by Sarah Arkle.
Good afternoon, commission members, Madam Chairman, Chair Lady, and council member. What an honor. It's nice to see you all. I feel like I haven't seen you in probably, other than Scott, probably 2 years. So it's nice to see you. I'm glad to be here. We get to sort of take a fun little, drone level view of my division today. I have a few slides. Obviously, at any point, if you have questions, feel free to hop in and ask. But what we're going to be discussing, my name is Sarah Arkle. I'm the superintendent of Foothills and Open Space. And what we're going to be discussing are the three main programs that this division includes. So first off, we'll talk about those programs. I needed to update this. I'm sorry. The city owns and manages 14 reserves, totaling a little over 5,000 acres. In the last, let's see, I've been with the city now for 6 years, and we've been able to add 3 new reserves in that time. Hawkins Range Reserve, Antelope Bitterbrush Reserve, and then we've added to Stack Rock Reserve 1,000 acres. So our open space management program, what I'm going to do through the course of this presentation is just provide you with some key projects that we are currently involved in for each of these programs. Ridge to Rivers Partnership, I know you're all very familiar with our trail partnership. 5 agencies, the city of Boise being the lead agency. All of our Ridge to Rivers staff members are city of Boise staff members. We have 4 full-time staff members, and then during the summer months, we bring on 4 additional temporary workers to manage and maintain over 200 miles of trails. We also work really closely with private landowners, both in the foothills and in the flatlands, to try and create and preserve connectivity to our communities. And finally, our environmental education programs. We'll be talking about what we're doing at the Jim Hall Foothills Learning Center and how we are growing at the Boise Urban Garden School. And I will try to hold back all of the puns that I like to make about growing things. So first off, open space management projects. We've got currently a pretty large scale restoration project going on right now. If you have hiked behind Camel's Back in the last couple of years, you will have noticed that there are some trees being removed. We have a pretty aggressive non-native tree called Russian olive that uses more water than our native trees, and is not very useful for our wildlife. So we have embarked on an effort to remove approximately 4 acres of Russian olive trees and restore them with 9 different shrub and tree species that are native to our area. The hope is to preserve groundwater, to improve water quality in the area, and also to provide wildlife habitat. I'm pretty proud of the next 2 projects that I want to talk about, Weed Warriors and Adopt a Habitat. Martha Brabeck is our restoration ecologist, and she is a lone warrior. So we rely pretty extensively on the work and the passion of volunteers. Weed Warriors is a program that crowdsources invasive species management. We train and empower individuals to identify and remove invasive species that are problematic in our reserves, such as goat heads. That's the one that most people know about. It's a great program. We have seen a pretty big jump in participation due to, I think, in part, COVID-19 and people seeking ways to be outside and to be contributing to their community. Finally, Adopt a Habitat is a new program. Similar to Adopt a Park, we're hoping that groups, or Adopt a Trail, we're hoping that groups and businesses will adopt a habitat and participate in volunteer efforts there to remove invasive species and to restore native habitat. So our Ridge to Rivers partnership projects. Before I move on, does anybody have any questions about any of the restoration work that I just talked about? No? Okay, I'll plow ahead. Right now, we are engaged in a unique management program for Ridge to Rivers. For 30 some odd years, this partnership has existed and collaborated and done a great job of growing a wonderful trails program. And we've managed those trails pretty much the same way for those 30 years. Multi-use, multi-directional, mostly off-leash. We saw a huge increase in trail visitorship in 2020 and 2021. In some areas, we were seeing 3 times the amount of use. So whereas we were estimating in 2018 that we were getting 1 million visits to our trail system, we're now estimating in 2021 that we're getting 3 million visits. And it became pretty clear over the past 3 years that the user experience was changing, because more and more folks started asking us to try different management strategies. We asked in 2016 and in 2018 in 2 separate survey events, we asked, do you want us to try different management strategies on the trails that would improve safety and user experience, but would potentially separate uses? And in those 2 surveys in 2016 and 2018, the feedback from our trail users and the folks who took that survey was pretty clear. We're not ready for it. It's too confusing. We want to keep the same access that we have. Well, in 2021, that changed. We sent out a survey in February of 2021 and held a virtual open house. 4,400 people took that survey. And it was pretty clear based on that feedback that they wanted us to try out some different strategies on 4 different trails in our foothills. And those trails are Lower Hulls Gulch, Polecat, Around the Mountain, and Bucktail. Bucktail's in Military Reserve. And so those strategies have been sort of playing out since April. We've had a lot of signage. We've done mid-project surveys to make sure that every step of the way, we know that we are getting feedback from the community and learning, because this is all new to us. And so as our trail users are learning these different strategies and how to, change their use based on them, we're learning also how to tweak it so that it's a more useful option for our trail users. So last night we just had our final virtual meeting. We have a survey open right now that will close next Wednesday. So I'm hopeful that if you haven't had a chance to take it and you're a trail user, we'd love for you to participate in that survey. And then we will make determinations on whether or not those strategies will stay on the landscape and become permanent. So the other project I wanted to highlight here was Hawkins Range Reserve. This is a 400-acre reserve that is just above Dry Creek on the west side of Bogus Basin Road. The 3 properties that created Hawkins Range Reserve were purchased in 2015 and 2016. And since that time, we've been working with our partners, the BLM, because part of our trail design goes on BLM property, BLM and then the property owners up there to create a trail design, find some funds to build the trail and build a trailhead. So we are doing that right now. The trail is being built as we speak. We hope to have a trail and a trailhead built by early 2023 so that we can open up this new area to the public. It's a neat spot. It has pretty good intact grasslands as well as some intact shrublands. We have planned to do one approximately 6-mile loop with a smaller nested loop for folks who don't want to go that far, but still want to experience and enjoy the views. There's beautiful views out there. Can't wait to take you all out. So those are the 2 projects I wanted to highlight for our trails. And finally, we'll get into environmental education. You're all familiar with the 2 facilities that we manage and provide environmental education programs to children and adults. The Jim Hall Foothills Learning Center is nestled in Hulls Gulch. It is a beautiful facility. If you haven't been up there, please, I'd love to give you a tour. We have a Firewise garden and a pollinator garden and a nature play area. And we've been really trying over the last 5 years to create it, enhance it as a destination, regardless of whether or not you're coming to participate in a program. We want you to be able to learn and experience kind of native habitat and learning tools on the property. A few years ago, we were discussing, what kind of gaps in services can we as environmental education centers provide to the community? And early childhood education was clearly one of those things that we didn't have a lot of programs around, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity around the community. So we developed the Valley's first outdoor preschool at the Foothills Learning Center in 2018. And it has been incredibly successful and inspiring. Not only do I get to look out at preschoolers outside my window, just learning and enjoying being outdoors in all types of weather, but I get to interact with families from all over the valley. We have folks coming even from outside of Boise to participate in these programs. It's changing a bit now because there are a few more opportunities for folks to enjoy outdoor preschool, but we are still the most affordable option for families. COVID-19, oh, and I should say, I might as well say it's been so successful and such a good program at Jim Hall Foothills Learning Center that we have expanded now that outdoor preschool opportunity for the Boise Urban Garden School. And there's now a preschool garden out there. There was a ribbon cutting, what was it, a year ago now? And we are going to be enhancing that garden over the next year. COVID-19 really changed our experience up at these facilities, because we weren't able to bring in field trips. And we missed those school-aged kids. We still do, because a lot of schools still aren't doing field trips. So now we'll be looking towards doing and enhancing and improving our outreach so that we are going to students. Busing has been an issue. It's expensive. And obviously you've all heard about the shortage of bus drivers. So asking kids to come up to the facilities over the next few years might be a little challenging. So we'll be looking at ways to bring wildlife education and stewardship to children across the valley at different grade levels. So we're really looking forward to that. And finally, I just want to highlight the culinary and nutrition programs that we offer at the Boise Urban Garden School. We actually help manage, I think it's 8 community gardens. And they're all over the city, from Comba to, the East End. And through those gardens, we seek to not only get fresh and healthy veggies into the hands of folks who need it most by working with partners like Rolling Tomato, but we also try and teach kids how to cook with those fresh and healthy veggies. So we've been really fortunate. In that picture, you can see our instructor, Polly. She's been with us now for, I think, 3 years, and she's a nutritionist, and she has developed all of our curriculum, and our culinary programs are going gangbusters. And it's really exciting to see these little 10, 11-year-old kids making food. Sometimes I'll go out just to eat the lunch they prepare. So it's a wonderful program. I'm really, honestly, I think I have the best job in the whole wide world. And I'm super happy to share it with you today. So if you have any questions about anything I've said or any projects that you've heard about that I didn't cover today, I'm happy to answer them.
Madam President, Commission members, one of the things that I didn't see on your slide presentation, you might do a quick just overview, is the levy funding.
Sure.
The $10 million that you all voted to tax yourselves on, commissioners, happens to be housed within our Foothills and open space. And Sarah is basically the steward over that funding. And Commissioner Rayberg serves on the Open Space and Clean Water Committee as a representative from the Park and Recreation Commission. And so he is your liaison into that group, into that committee that makes recommendations to the mayor and city council on how those funding dollars could be spent. So if you wanted to kind of address that real quickly, Sarah, that'd be great.
Thank you, Director Holloway. That was a silly omission on my part. Yes, so in 2015, our citizens voted to tax themselves in a 2-year temporary property tax increase to create a $10 million fund to basically refill the coffers that had been filled in 2001 and allow the city to be flexible and available should we have the opportunity to purchase properties in areas such as the Boise Foothills or the Boise River. That ballot language identifies conservation criteria that we seek to enhance with those funds, including clean water, clean drinking water sources, native species, wildlife habitat, and recreational opportunities. We have about $8 million left in that fund, which is wonderful in the sense that we've been fiscally efficient. We've been able to work with property owners over the last 5 years to find good values on the properties that we have purchased. And we have been able to fund, with the approval of council, some improvement projects to enhance enhance habitat in the Boise River corridor. So one of the projects that is currently going on, or currently just about to start, is a project that is in partnership with the Golden Eagle Audubon Society. And their proposal is to restore habitat on public lands along the Boise River corridor, including city property, Ada County property, and to plant all of these native species and with volunteer help. So that's one that will be coming before council, I think in November. I don't have a date on me just yet, but it will also come with a budget request for, I think, $48,000 to buy materials and mobilize volunteers to enhance riparian habitat along the river.
Thank you, Superintendent Arkle. Does anyone have questions?
Madam Chair.
This is John. Can you guys hear me okay?
But I'm glad that I caught that part about the preschool. And there's always something just to marvel at your guys' meetings. So thank you for that. That was just a nice little boost to have, to see that we're on the cutting edge of something, you know, as our state grapples with childcare and child education, early childhood education, just to see us make use of our assets in such a way, I think it's just beautiful. So thank you for adding that in there.
Thank you, council member.
I agree with that, Councilmember Sanchez. It's a really cool program. Any other questions? Did I hear John?
Yeah, I was just going to dovetail. That's exactly what Counselor Sanchez was talking about. Sarah, your team and really the culture of your department is really amazing, because like you said, and you kind of humbly went over that pretty quickly, the work that your department is doing to kind of reach back out into the schools. You know, field trips are a challenge right now, but your team, you know, they're just so willing. They're doing, you know, online presentations. Just imagine yourself trying to make a online presentation for a preschool kid or even elementary age kids is not easy, you guys. There's just a tremendous amount of work, but your team is just fabulous. Like you mentioned Polly, but Janice and Lisa are just really just doing so much work for our kids in our school, because it fits into our health curriculum with the nutrition. And so anyway, I just wanted to say thanks, and really the work that you guys are doing is extraordinary. And we sure appreciate it in the Boise School District for sure. So thank you.
Thank you, John.
Yep, Madam President, and thank you, Commissioner Rosiska. And the other thing we won't get into here, but we will have Sarah back again at some point with Lisa Duplessis to talk a little more in depth, maybe even on some of that, get more in depth on some of the things that we're doing with kids in our community gardens, but also the Spalding Ranch, which you're all, again, very familiar with, is also housed within Sarah's group, and that's headed up by Lisa Duplessis, who is our site manager for Spalding Ranch. And we have a lot of exciting things that are going on out there. And so we'll be looking forward to bringing that back and giving you an update on some really cool stuff that's happening out at Spalding Ranch. And it's going to tie in to all this educational components that we have built between the Foothills Learning Center and between Cumba Park, which is where our Bugs location is at, is going to really work and springboard well into what we're going to be doing at Spalding Ranch, which is going to be one giant youth education, turn of the century agricultural educational opportunity. It's going to be the most mind-blowing stuff that we will ever have in this city, and it's going to be so cool. And Sarah's team is really heading that up, and we'll have you back, Sarah, maybe you and Lisa, to talk a little more in depth about some of the cool stuff that's going on with Spalding now.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. So do we have a need for executive session today?
We do not.
Okay. So motion to adjourn if anyone has one.
I'll move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, we're done. Thank you, everyone.